They don't. We should do the Arcane Men next week. We should have done that this week while Arcane was still hot, but people hate...
Oh, you tell me Arcane won't be hot in a week?
I don't know, but people hate my Arcane ranking.
Your woman ranking?
What do you think? So, which take of mine do you think people are most upset with in the Arcane women ranking? I'll remind you, it was Ambessa...
And Mel,
Vi, yep. Jinx, and then... No. I think it was... Yeah, Vi, Jinx, Maddie, Caitlyn. I thought I put Maddie.
Oh, Maddie.
I thought
Maddie being anywhere, Maddie being anywhere even in your top 5 people are upset about. I've been seeing clips of her getting shot in the head like it's like 2007 MLG compilation.
I think it's so funny that people are like, yeah, fuck Maddie, she sucks. And both of us were like, she absolutely was in the right in this relationship.
She objectively was.
Yeah, she's a fascist, but like, quit cheating on her.
That doesn't mean you can cheat on her.
Quit cheating on every woman in your life, Caitlyn.
Yeah, stop. Listen, Caitlyn is just the town bike. Everyone's taking a ride.
But yeah, what take do you think people were most upset about? You're right that they were...
be Maddie, right?
No, they're really mad that Caitlyn was 6. They're really mad at that. They were like, oh, Caitlyn's my wife, bro. Also, Jinx, people have way higher.
Listen, okay, I understand not putting Jinx that high. That's fine. Like, you're like, the thing about, like, laying in a bed of hypodermic needles makes a lot of sense. Jinx is a nightmare. Caitlyn is, well, I think I put her at 2 or something. I find Caitlyn very attractive, but I can also understand not being like, oh, Caitlyn is just a woman. Like, Caitlyn is just a woman, like, objectively. Like, you know, in a world filled with, like, beautiful dark-skinned women with like gold embezzlements on their faces and 6'7" hulking twink eaters and Vi who's a tattooed fucking like gigantic boxing woman, and Jinx who's got 8 foot long, like there's like, and then there's Caitlyn who's like a librarian from down the street. Like Caitlyn's very attractive. I'm not saying that she's not, but I can understand not being like, oh, Caitlyn's at the top of my list.
Yeah, for sure. Should we talk about Dandadan?
Can we do one last thing?
Yep.
On Hell of a Boss before we go on?
Yeah.
I want to talk about how I like that Blitz got redeemed separate of Stolas. Like, I like that Hell of a Boss didn't decide to have Blitz like grovel in front of Stolas and Stolas take him back. I like that Blitz over the course of the last 2 episodes redeemed himself in the eyes of his friends and act non-selfishly for like maybe the first time in his life. And because of that, that led to a redemption with Stolas.
That's such a good take and point. I agree. This has a lot of great and exciting story developments in it. Like, I love that Stolas is, like, on this peasant arc, and Blitz is on this, rise, this, like, political rise, which is also why I loved Ghostfuckers, because it kind of reinforced the idea that Blitz is this, like, trailblazer, and, like, none of the imps have the confidence to, like, start their own businesses and, like, feel like they can succeed in this world, and Blitz is like, fuck you, you work for me, and in working for me, you technically work for yourself. Like, we are going to be equal here. And I love that that becomes televised, and he kind of becomes, like, a hero to imps. Like, I'm so excited for things moving forward.
And I'm actually just now realizing that in the beginning of the episode when they're talking with the interns and the interns are like, oh, we work for experience and all of that. Well, at the time I was just like focused on the fact that like, oh yeah, unpaid internships, of course they exist in hell. But I was like, that's very funny. But I was like, also like, that is a good sign that like people are recognizing Blitz and like want to work with him, right? Like they're like, oh, they have interns, they have people showing up who want to work at IMP for free. Like, I thought that was really cool. But yes, now we can talk about Dandadan.
What's your stance, Nick?
Oh, I was going to ask you that question, Dan. I figured, as you're the one recording, and therefore has access to the master files, how about you tell me your stance?
As the one who's ahead on the manga and, has claimed that Dandadan is their favorite manga of all time, the best manga of all time, I think it's good you lead this discussion.
No, that's a great point, Andy. That's a really, really good point. I'm just saying, they say age before beauty, and as the most beautiful person and also the younger person on this podcast, I think you should go first.
Is that what you think? Well, you know what they say, those in China better start fucking saying all of their listen, you're in China, you're safe from from the mob. They have a whole ocean to cross before they get to you.
They're just like, how dare you? How dare you? What are they gonna, they're gonna grab onto their slippy, naked teenage boy with their ghost hands and ride over here?
Yeah, you've already fled the country. I'm still here.
Oh man, I told you that this episode was gonna be a lot, and it just objectively is. It's not as bad as episode 1. Upon watching it, it's not as bad as episode 1. Because there's like no scenes where like Okarun gets his clothes melted off in the last episode. But there's no scenes where like visceral, like, oh, this girl is like tied up in her like underwear. But boy, is Okarun just fully naked for the entirety of it. And he gets used like a fucking. Like, do you ever throw, whenever in the pool, did you ever throw those little, little rockets underwater?
Yeah, it got used like one of those little, like, tube things that, like, you're supposed to grab and it keeps falling out of your hands, you know? One of these. One of these.
Nope.
Well.
I'm not.
Yeah.
You look like an old-timey boxer doing that.
Yeah, come on. Hey.
Come on. Come on. That's going to be you in a couple of months.
But boy, does he get manhandled. Mm-hmm. It's funny because so many people were, like, they love being like, oh, well, Dandadan's not, like, pervy because, or it's equal genders pervy because Okarun gets put in, like, just as compromising situations as the women. And he's naked this whole episode, but it so isn't framed in a way that's meant to be like sexy or like.
No, it's meant to be embarrassing.
Yeah, it's meant to be embarrassing and funny. Like, it's not like there are no real frames except maybe when he's dancing with what's her name, where it's like
Ira.
Yeah, where it's like clearly intending to be hot. And so I was like, oh, like, I'm so sick of people telling me that this is, like, the male and female gaze, because it's just not. Until he gives, what's her name? Momo. Until he gives Momo his little speech, where he's like, if you're upset about something, I wish you would just talk to me about it. We can discuss and, like, work out your feelings. And I was like,
yeah.
Oh, that is the female gaze. Like,
that's the thing. Like, and we actually literally just posted a post like on this in short form where we're talking about how like, oh, you know, like we're like, oh, we want like, you know, equality in the sexualization of our characters, but like that doesn't look the same for like both demographics. Like obviously, like for a male gaze, like yeah, you know, they want to see the boobies, but for a female gaze, it's exactly that. It's like oh, like an interesting and compelling like romantic story. That doesn't revolve around this teenage boy getting used like a torpedo, like a slippery, lubed up torpedo. And so yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same. It's like seeing like Okarun naked, no girls, like oh yeah. I want to see his like shadowed out nether regions, like he's an abnormal titan. Like no, that's not what anybody's looking for.
Yeah, I will say, Dandadan. Because you prepped me for this, you warned me for it, and everyone was like, oh, episode 9's like a rough one. Dandadan has really placed this in a strategic, like, spot within the season, because after, like, a whole show of, like, fighting over Okarun's genitals and, like, a bunch of other, like, pervy shit and, like, the Acro Silky just, like, gagging and binding and blinding the hell out of Momo.
That was crazy.
We got to this, and there was the initial shock of, like, he's naked, and then they're, like, in their underwear. And then I just kind of got over it. Like, I was just watching the episode.
Yeah.
It's like...
I think maybe it's because we become so desensitized to it. Like, we're like, oh, they're not, like... It's like the whole thing is like, oh, they're skimpily clad in. Like, oh, that's MHA, basically. Like, oh, what do you mean? Like, oh, these teenagers, like, they're barely wearing anything. And it's like, yeah, man, like, maybe we're just desensitized to it. Like, it definitely isn't, like, overtly sexual. Like, yeah, like, it's funny to me, though, because it is very clearly done for a reason. Like, I was giggling to myself because, like, Mom was like, we got to take these clothes off. We're going to get waterlogged. And I was like, to inject that little bit of reason to be like, hey, clothes are heavy when they're wet into this situation where Serponians are trying to steal your banana organs. And, oh, also the Loch Ness Monster is a yokai and up for fucking higher. Like, it's just so funny to me when people are like, oh, well, of course, like, they didn't want to drown. They had to take their clothes off. It's like, hey, man, they're using Okaroon like a fucking lubed up torpedo. Why are we injecting reason?
I know. Like, the reason is literally just to see them in underwear. Also, it's like a Wednesday afternoon on a school day. Why are they in, like, a Victoria's Secret catalog outfit? Like, it's the frilliest, most lingerie-looking underwear. So, it's being done for reasons. But, yeah, I really just, like, after the initial shock, I kind of got over it. Like, at least they're not, like, fucking, I guess. And then at the end, they do, like, a bit where it's like, oh, they're fucking in the hallway. But it was, like, that felt more genuinely, like, a coming-of-age adolescence, like, joke, where they're like, I love when they're laying there, and, like, they're just, like, laughing in each other's arms, and I'm like, man, this feels human, and, like, I buy their friendship, and I root for them to get together, and then they're like, oh, they're fucking in the hallway! What?
What do you mean you root for them? No, you don't. No, you don't.
Me?
You said last week you were like, oh, I'm all in for Ira.
Oh, well, in that moment, I'm saying. I was like, oh, man, like, the voice actors have, like, great chemistry.
Yeah.
Like, that was a great showcasing of, like, their chemistry. And then, then people are like, hey, it's 1 p.m. and these two students are naked in the middle of the hallway. And it felt more like a joke rather than like, oh, let's have a excuse to see Ira's tits.
I think Okaroon's voice actor may be... Okaroon's voice actor, I think he met his wife on a Science Saru project. I don't know if his wife is Momo, but I think he met his wife on a Science Saru. I remember I scrolled like upon his TikTok and he was like, oh yeah, I think because I'm working on another Science Saru project, and I think he met his wife on a Science Saru, because I was like, oh, you talked about chemistry. But yeah, no, so they all have really good chemistry, and I thought like it was a really good episode. What'd you think of the Japanese businessman song?
I loved it. I love that song. It was like Japanese, or no, it was businessman, Japanese, businessman.
Do you know what that's from?
I feel like I'd heard it before. What's it from?
You definitely haven't heard it before. If you just Google Japanese businessman, you'll find it. But it's from, in Japan, they have like these like wellness shots, kind of. They're basically just things that make you a lot, like they're like, oh, you can now work for 16 hours a day. They're like caffeine and vitamins and all those kinds of things. They come in like little containers this big. And this was one. It's not. I don't think it's in the manga. If I'm correct here, I don't think this moment's in the manga. I don't think he sings, but. It's like an 80s commercial of like these dudes flying on a private jet and like bouncing back from the flight so they can land and go work. And it's like a song playing over this commercial for these wellness shots.
Interesting.
Isn't that wild?
That is wild. I love that bit. I love the mantis shrimp. And I loved Ira's, like, form. I love her fighting style. I love how it's all like ballet and shit. The choreography was sick.
The dance fight was really, really good. They did a really masterful job of like Ira and Okaroon landing the kicks. I thought was really sick.
I love, what a cool villain, or what a good enemy to put them up against specifically, because Ira's great at fighting, but Okaroon doesn't know how to fight. And this thing is based on an underwater creature known for punching imperceptibly fast. So, like, you get this thing that's, like, a good boxer and it's crazy fast, and Ira's not that fast, but Okaroon is. And so it's the perfect animal to make them combine their talents.
Yeah.
So that was awesome.
No, it was a lot of fun. I thought, like, and you got what you wanted. Ira's ability is not just, like, her ability is hair contingent. Like, it's like, yes, she has, like, the kicks and all of that, but she also, like, has, like, you know, she's able to control her hair really well, and so that was awesome. But there was a couple of moments this episode where Ira just got bodied. Like, Ira getting the moment where she's, like, about to, like, fight the mantis shrimp, and she gets instant uppercut. Like, into the ceiling.
Yeah. Well, it's weird.
That was sick.
It's weird seeing these like teenagers take like insane hits out of their like powered up forms. Like it started in episode 2 when the sumo was just like drilling Momo into the wall, and I was like, well, maybe she's doing like a barrier or something like that between them, and so that kind of makes sense. But now they're just kind of, like, throwing out, like, you know, regular-ass humans can take, like, insane hits, and that's just kind of something you gotta get used to.
Well, they're not regular-ass humans, that's the thing. They all have, like, really high spiritual power.
Well,
so, like, spiritual power also adds to durability. So, like, your average human would get, like, you saw, like, when the crab, when the crab ran through that bath area, it was able to, like, knock down buildings. Like, it could kill people. It absolutely could kill people. But, like, because Okaroon and Ira and Momo all have crazy high spirit power, like, they have, like, a higher durability to spirit-based attack.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess I, like, was more expecting the durability to come with the form, you know, rather than, outside of it.
And then I wanted to say, how are we feeling on Momo? Because you've been the #1 most vocal Momo hater for the entirety of the 9 episodes we've watched from this season, but hate all you want on Momo. She's clutch. You can't say that she's not clutch.
Oh, she's always coming in clutch. Her underwater, like, her little, like, bring it move, real hype. She's definitely, she's hitting a realistic arc, and, like, at a good gradual rate. Like, she was, like, relentlessly mean starting the season, but I really did love his, like, hey, why don't we just, like, talk about the shit we're feeling so that we aren't, like, bickering in the middle of a fight? Can we please do that? Yeah. So yeah, I'm, like, coming around on her for sure. Ira's still fun, though. Like, I like both of them. Yeah. I like her actually, like, outwardly liking Ken or Okaroon. So that's also good. How'd you feel about, the, like, transformation of the Loch Ness Monster?
Oh, the Serponian, like, transformation. I thought it was sick. I mean, it's very funny because it looks silly, and I thought, like, the Loch Ness Monster obviously looks way more terrifying in its, like, Shin Godzilla form. But, like, I do think, like, like, and it's, like, it's explained, like, through the medium of, like, oh, this Godzilla breath is powered by, like, shooting a hyper condensed cone of water. I've always liked, and then, like, the ad of the arms and all that. Why are you asking?
It was very cool. Like, I like the design. I do love, she's like, I just gotta get in close. And he's like, I'm a boxing whale. Like, that's very cool. I was, like, mildly disappointed because I was so into the Loch Ness Monster in the last episode. I love the tone of it. I loved how, like, slow and, like threatening and scary it was. And then in this one, when he, like, creates this, like, double lake and he, like, makes the ground disappear, and I was like, oh, fuck, it's so scary.
It's terrifying.
And then they box it, and I was hoping it'd be, like, I wanted, like, a survival horror, like, a B-plot with Momo, and she had to use her wits to kill it, you know?
I'm trying to think if you get, like, something like that. I'd say, like, of all, like, in terms of, like, the most viscerally terrifying, I'd say the Loch Ness Monster is the most viscerally terrifying enemy that they ever fight against. But, like, that is fair. Like, they did such a good job designing the Loch Ness Monster. To see it just kind of turned into, like, Serponian Chimera is kind of, like, difficult because it gets the Serponian alien face, and it just loses, like, an intimidation factor, even though it gets a lot larger. But it's still a really cool fight. Like, Momo stripping the water from it blowing its arms out, like, all a really good callback to mantis shrimps, which for some reason are, like, the focus of this arc. And you'll find out why it's the focus of this arc in a second here. I think next episode. My final note from this episode of Dandadan: imagine going to school with Okaroon. Imagine Okaroon is that walking wall ball court that you've been going to school with for 3 years. That kid who just, like, he doesn't pay attention, but he just reads fucking, like, alien books all day. That kid just for some reason just appeared naked in the hallway with two of the more attractive women in the entire school. What a week!
Yeah, it's just publicly fucking, like, the 2 most popular girls in the school. He's also at his desk doing, like, a different exercise in each limb, like an absolute psychopath.
Like Deku?
Yeah, like Deku. Yeah, but, like, Deku does do that. But at least it's, like, a superhero school. Okaroon looks like he's gonna...
Fair.
Okaroon's got, like, don't come to school tomorrow vibes, but he's gonna, like, use a different type of gun to take people out.
Whoa, Dan. What was that?
Oh, one of these guys? Huh? Yeah, be careful, you know? May go off.
Damn, we're putting some muscle on there, friend.
We're frantically trying as I quickly reach my plateau
Oh, is that what's going on? You're just capped out at 132 pounds?
I'm just afraid of it. Like,
yeah, that's fair. Steroids are always there. They'll help you push straight through. How about this, Dan? You can get on steroids. I can get a trainer, but you can get steroids.
I'd love to get on steroids. It'd be hilarious.
Just do a cycle.
It'd be
just do
so
a cycle.
funny.
It's fine. Just one cycle.
Just do it once.
Just do one cycle. I'm sure nothing bad could happen.